Throughout history, freethinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizvi and Armin Navabi.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Ali Rizvi, and with me is, so first of all, this is Armin Navabi. Armin, how are you? How's it going?
Good.
You look very handsome right now. And then there's also the beautiful and brilliant Susanna. Susanna, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
Yeah, she's joining us for this.
I thought when you said beautiful, I thought you were going to mention me.
Oh my gosh, okay. Well, I guess, when they say no introduction needed, I guess that just came to life right now. Here it is. Harris Sultan, the man who, well, you can flex your pecs, right? I mean, that's probably something I can say to you. You can do the whole Terry Crews. He's doing it. This is why you need to be a patron. Everybody go to patreon.com/SJME and you can see Harris flexing his pecs. It's something to, we don't just offer commentary here. We offer, okay, I'm not going to get into it. Welcome, Harris, to the show. Well, first of all, I got to say one thing. You tweeted this morning, Harris, for those who don't know who he is, I mean, he's actually very prominent and very popular YouTube host. He has several shows on YouTube. He is a Pakistani atheist activist, one of the few people who is very vocal and speaks about it in Urdu. And we're going to get into all your channels in a bit. But you posted this thing about Ali Dawa, the popular sort of, I guess, Muslim evangelist, Islamic evangelist in the UK. And he got suspended from Twitter. You told me about that. What happened?
Look. I mean, I don't know what happened because I was looking up. So those of you who don't know, yesterday, probably around this time, Mufti Abu Layth's house was attacked after Muhammad Hijab did takfir on him and called him he misrepresented his views about.
So for people who don't know, Mufti Abu Layth is like a more of a reformist preacher in the UK, and Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab are a bit more traditionalist. And this reformist Mufti just recently came out and made some comments about the Israel and Palestinian situation. One of the commentary that he made that basically I think that made everybody upset was the suggestion that maybe Palestinians should just leave Israel, and that was basically a huge red line for a lot of Muslims, and they basically attacked his house just yesterday, I think, where his two daughters and his wife are sleeping, and it was like people with masks showed up. But how is this related to these other Dawa guys, these other preachers like Ali Dawa and Muhammad Hijab? How is it related? What did they incite the attack?
Well, obviously they didn't explicitly say that, and this is why when you and I spoke about me trying to get Ali Dawa barred from entering Australia was because these guys are clever with their words. They just say the right things to provoke people, but they just step short of saying go and do it. It's got his trademark dog whistling. This is a classic case of dog whistling, and that's exactly what Muhammad Hijab did yesterday. And by the way, the video that you're talking about, that Mufti Abu Layth had said, that's about a year ago when things were not really that volatile at that point, like in calmer days. That's what he went through possible solutions, and then just one solution, he said that, okay, at the end of the day, your lives are more important. So in that case, if you're being persecuted, then maybe do the migration and follow the Sunnah. And he invoked Albani's fatwa on that as well, that if Muslims are being persecuted in infidel lands, then they should do the hijrah. That's what he said as one of the possibilities. And they deliberately took that bit out about a year ago. That video had been out for for nearly 12 months. But Muhammad Hijab, as vile a creature he is and as dishonest as he is, everyone who's ever interacted with him, the first thing that comes to the mind is he's a dishonest individual. He deliberately used that clip now, selectively used that comment and made a video on Mufti Abu Layth right now in the midst of what's going on between Israel and Palestine to provoke these already charged up sentiments of Muslims and Palestinians. So this is a year-old video. Funnily enough, at the same time, Mufti Abu Layth was already uploading his video again, detailing about what his views were regarding Palestine. And he's definitely, by all stretches of imagination, he is a pro-Palestinian guy. He called Israel a cruel, illegal state, and he doesn't oppose the existence of Israel, but I think he talks about setting up the Palestinian state, like West Bank and Gaza.
Whatever his opinion is on the issue,
it's irrelevant, yeah.
And it's
it's very interesting, Ali. Actually, I'm glad that you jumped in to say that, because this is what I hate about Mufti Abu Layth's defense, right? So they attacked his house, and they traumatized his children, masked people at night. And Mufti Abu Layth just came out with a video. Mm-hmm. And most of this video is about, why did you guys attack me? I'm pro-Palestinian.
Yeah. I am a Muslim.
And I'm a Muslim. I'm not
a kafir. I'm a Muslim.
Dude, they attack your children. Who gives a crap what your position is? Like, are you suggesting that if you were pro-Israel, that if you were a kafir, that any of this attack would be justified? Like, who gives a like? He's like, guys, I have said this about Palestine. Palestinians are this to my heart. I have called Israel this and that, and Israel is like this Zionist imperialist, like they are human rights, blah blah blah. I've said this. Like, dude, is that? Who gives a crap what your position is? Are you saying that if your position was something else, and you're saying that what he's saying is that go somebody else that has the positions that they claimed, he says people are lying about me, right? So what? So if they were honest, if these things that they're saying about you were true, then that justifies that attack. He's like, hey God, they say I'm a kafir. Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. He said that I'm a Muslim. Why are you attacking me? What does that mean? So they should come attack us then? Not you, because we're the kafirs? His defense was disgusting.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's disgusting. I understand. Like, I think that you want to mitigate things. You're like, okay, because there are two things happening here. There's one is they attacked him, and that his views are completely irrelevant when it comes to that. There's another thing where his views are actively being misrepresented. And I'm sure he believes all the things that he's saying, right? I mean, he's like, this is completely taken out of context, that these people who attack me, not only did they attack me, but at the same time, they're being completely dishonest and misrepresenting my views.
Though. No. If he said it this way, then it would make sense. Go watch the video. He's like,
Mufti Saab, come to me. I will help you.
Okay, well, I have a different take on this. I think, first of all, no, it's always good to set the record straight.
Yeah.
Yes, you could say that it's got nothing to do with this, even if I had said it. But he's not going to clarify his position or let the other party hijack his opinions because he's been attacked. So despite of that, he first has to get the record straight. And Mufti Abu Layth is, for a moment, is not suggesting that, because he's only one of the very few. I think he's the only one who actually came out and said, leave ex-Muslims alone, leave atheists alone. And he copped a lot of slack. I think that was the time when he started getting...
I'm criticizing that. I'm criticizing this.
No. Yeah, but I'm telling you he still has to set the record straight.
No, but that's not the framing. That's not the framing of his. Go watch the video.
The way that he talked about it. I understand what you're saying, Armin. But I want to ask so going back to this, and then we want to get to the topic of this thing, and this is kind of related to it, the whole blasphemy and the issues with it. But do you know why Ali Dawa was banned?
No, that's what I was telling. So I was looking into it, and a lot of people on my video were saying that, oh, Muhammad Hijab didn't say to go and attack his house. I'm like, yeah, that's a classic textbook case of dog whistling without getting yourself implicated in that. So then I thought, okay, has Muhammad Hijab deleted his video? Has he condemned this? Nope, nothing came out of him. He's even uploaded another video, not related to this, but like as he just attacked and moved on. Then I thought, okay, what's his lapdog doing? Ali Dawah, what is he saying? And what is this Fareed guy saying? Fareed guy is not saying anything. So I looked up Ali Dawah's Twitter account, just to see, if he's done anything, because I don't follow these guys. So I looked it up. It was all gone. So I don't know why it's been taken down. But I don't know if it's related to this or not, but he said a lot of vile and disgusting things in the past. So, regardless of your absolutist free speech opinion, it's that there has to be a line at some point. And
you still don't understand my position. Do you think
I do understand your position, but we'll go into that again. It's a rabbit hole. But
no. You started it. I have to say, free speech doesn't mean you don't get banned from Twitter.
Quickly.
Ali.
Yeah.
I know that position. I know that. Yeah, I know your position on that.
No, so you can't just say something and then do let's not go down that rabbit hole. Getting removed from Twitter does not violate anyone's free speech, right? Again, that's censorship. Censorship could be a good policy or it could be a bad policy. Just because it's not violating someone's free speech doesn't mean it's always good. But if somebody is promoting violence, first of all, that could be also illegal. But you could get, just if you break community standards, you could get removed from a platform, and that doesn't go against my promotion of freedom of speech. So just want to put that out there.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Let's move on to this. Okay. Well,
by the way, how do you very quickly, by the way, how do you feel about your old friend Bollywood actress Kangana Ranaut getting suspended from Twitter as well?
Oh no, I was gonna thank you for doing a video on that, because that's what motivated us to do a video on it as well. And thank you for bringing this. Yeah. So thank you for
she's actually my old friend too, and probably Susanna's as well, because she responds to everything.
I never got an interaction with her on Twitter. Nope. I felt very hurt. But you did have an actual back and forth, Ali, which was incredible.
Several, and it's like
to answer Harris. By the way, for people who don't know, she's a person who's responsible for sending all her goons after me and getting me removed from Twitter, and now she's removed from Twitter. And I was like, hey, maybe Hindu's all right. Maybe karma is a real thing. Actually, I don't know.
But I think now she's gonna get herself cancelled on Instagram as well, because she's using that. And apparently someone said that she made a video or she mentioned me, but I couldn't find the video. But I think someone could be just making it up.
We're gonna make a blasphemous art with her, by the way.
Who would not mention you, Harris? You can flex your pecs.
Nah, she wouldn't. No, but if she hates me, that's good, because I'm in a good company, because she hates Hrithik Roshan as well.
Hrithik Roshan. Yeah, I think he's one up on you. I'm really sorry.
We need to talk about Pakistan, by the way, at some point.
I think we should talk about Hrithik Roshan for the rest of the podcast. Anyway, he's a famous Bollywood actor. So let's do this. We're gonna go this. We're gonna do this. The two of us, Harris Sultan and me, Ali Rizvi. You were born in Lahore, or where were you born?
I was born in Lahore. But I'm slightly more Pakistani than you, because I was Sunni.
Jahan, TK. Yeah, whatever. Well, I mean, you may be more Pakistani. You're not more Muslim than me, because I'm Shia. But here's so tell me, which hospital, really quickly.
Gangaram Hospital.
My youngest brother was born in Gangaram. I was born in Lady Wellington.
Guys, can we get to Pakistan and blasphemy, please?
Well, Gangaram Hospital is in Pakistan.
Gangaram is a Hindu name for a Muslim hospital. Anyway, so here's what's going on. There's a lot that's been going on in Pakistan over the last month or so. So, one of the major pieces of news that came out of Pakistan last month is the Pakistani government, Imran Khan's government, has banned the Islamic fundamentalist group Tehreek-e-Labbaik. Right. There have also been issues that have been happening with France. Pakistan's they've been trying to break diplomatic ties. They've been hedging back and forth. And weirdly, the banned group Tehreek-e-Labbaik and Imran Khan seem aligned on this, even though, I think Imran Khan's official position was that they have different tactics. We have different tactics, because France is doing this sort of reclaiming of their secular values and a lot of this is upsetting a lot of Muslims in Pakistan who think that this is Islamophobic. Anyway, we're going to get into that. I'm going to talk to Harris about it. And recently, like, this blasphemy issue has become a really big thing, because anybody else who gets into who takes a stand against blasphemy laws, like France did, Macron did recently, just irks Pakistan, and then they start doing all of these crazy things. So the European Parliament also recently is adopting a resolution that's calling for Pakistan's GSP status.
Revoked.
And yeah, they've revoked it already. Yeah, they've revoked it.
No, they said that we'll think, but we need to consider
It's a
revoking
resolution.
it.
It's the
Yes.
GSP plus. Yeah.
Right.
Which means that Pakistan could lose economic incentives that equate to like around $1 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And this is
huge
happening
financial loss.
because of what they said was an alarming increase in the blasphemy accusations. Pakistan just basically going off the rails with this whole blasphemy accusation thing. So, Harris, I'm going to start with one question for you, and then I'll be quiet for some time at least. Is these, when Pakistan does this, a lot of this blasphemy, how much of it really is offending religious sensibilities versus using the blasphemy laws as a way to silence political dissent? Because I know that, when they banned YouTube many years ago, when they cracked down on these social media platforms, a lot of times they can ban political dissent, and they can sort of restrict people coming out and saying things. But if they say that we don't want you guys to talk, that can cause a problem. If they say we're doing this because of blasphemy, everyone's like, yes, that's right. This is what we should do. So what do you think it is? Do you think it's just one tiered, or do you think there's something under the surface?
Well, it's definitely more complex than that, because we can see the gradual shift in Pakistani general public's obsession with blasphemy. We've definitely seen a rise in blasphemy charges and accusations in recent years. When Ziaul Haq introduced the third clause of death penalty for blasphemers of Muhammad, only Muhammad, the cases went up in the preceding years. I believe in the first, when British created this law back in the 1930s, I think it was. So from 1926 or 36 to 1986, there were only 60 or so cases, but then from 1986 up until 2019, there are close to 1,500 registered cases for blasphemy, and there's been a sharp incline in the last decade or so, ever since Asia Bibi's case. People's tolerance has obviously gone down. Anything that they perceive as blasphemous, they just go for it, and they just turn the whole city upside down, and they demand and they bully the local authorities to take strict actions. How much of it is actually legitimate blasphemy? It's hard to say, because obviously we have to wait for the outcome from the courts. But to me, I think it just shows the overall the overall mentality of the Pakistani public, that anything that you say or we don't like. For example, I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, probably about a month ago, just before this whole TLP thing started, a Christian nurse was told to go and clean up a cupboard, and her being a nurse,
a locker room.
Yeah, and she cleared it out, and apparently it had a sticker with Darood written on it, and it's hard to say whether she did that out of contempt, or she probably innocently just took it down, and then she was accused of blasphemy. This guy came in and stabbed her. He literally stabbed her, and became a hero, delivered a speech that how can you tolerate this? They turned the whole hospital upside down. The police came, and the mob was already charged up by then. And then the girl, the woman, the nurse, Christian nurse, who was stabbed, she was arrested and probably still is in prison. And then just a couple of days ago, last week, In Lahore, there's a mental hospital in I believe it's on Jail Road. You would probably be familiar with that, Ali. And it had most of these hospitals. You'd probably know more than me. Most of these hospitals were either built by Hindus or by Christians, by the British before the creation of Pakistan, and some of them have actually retained their name. So that's why a lot of Christian nurses, a lot of these hospitals have Christian nurses. And that is probably only one of the few respectable jobs that they've got. Otherwise, they're just for cleaning sewers and just cleaning roads, and that kind of jobs are given to them, because apparently those jobs can't be done by Muslims. So what these nurses were saying, that they are deliberately being targeted because Muslim nurses want to get them sacked and they want to take the position. Now, I didn't take that claim seriously because, anything can happen. But then this incident happened. And the first demand they made, after accusing a woman of blasphemy, the first demand they made was sack all the Christian nurses from the hospital. And you're like, even if one Christian nurse committed blasphemy, why would you want to remove all of them? And then they barged into the church that was made that was inside the hospital, and they went in and they started singing hymns, sucking up Muhammad. Funnily enough, at the same time, while Imran Khan says the West is so Islamophobic and there's rising Islamophobia, at the very same time, the news came out of Germany that some German churches had opened their churches so Muslims could come in to do the tarawis of the extra prayers that they do after breaking the fast during the month of Ramadan, and they had offered that because mosques could not hold all the people because of the pandemic. So it's just a coincidence, but yeah, I think it's got to do with people's perception. And Pakistan is digging a bigger hole for themselves. They just recently passed a legislation that you have to add Khatamul Nabiyyin every time you mention Prophet Muhammad, otherwise that's a criminal offense. So
that's an anti-Ahmadi measure, right? Khatamul Nabiyyin means that he is the last.
Yes, that's what it means. But what it does, it just adds fuel to the fire. It just makes already obsessed people more obsessive. So forget about Ahmadis. If a normal Muslim doesn't say it, Khatamul Nabiyyin, then he could be accused of blasphemy. He could be accused of being an Ahmadi. Who knows what would happen? These charged up crowds, they're not going to check their ID card. They're just gonna start doing the thing. So that's Pakistani government doesn't know. And once these legislations are made, no one would have the courage to even amend them to the slightest. They would never be able to water them down. So Pakistan is being absolutely stupid. They think they're being smart by saying that, we just respect our prophet, so leave us alone. Well, they're just digging a hole and sinking themselves further and further into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that there's any insight? Do you think that they realize the concept? Because what do you do? A woman, these two nurses, it was I don't know if it was one nurse or two. I read there were two.
There were two, yeah.
Yeah, so these two nurses, they go and they remove these stickers with Islamic verses on it. Maybe they didn't know how to read it. You never know. I mean, they were student nurses. So they go and they do this, and they're like, okay, well, get all of the nurses out, ban all Christian nurses, and then you have a mob saying, when they say no, then you have a mob coming in and do. Is there any hope? When you have that kind of situation, these are all grown adult human beings, and now they've added this. And you're right. This is a really important point, that once they have made this rule, you can't go back on it. Nobody is going to go and try to challenge saying that, no, we need to remove the rule that you have to say Khatam al-Nabiyyin, right, at the end of Muhammad, because that itself will be blasphemous. Removing that will be seen as blasphemy.
Yeah.
How are you? Because we talked about whether you were optimistic or pessimistic about the future of Pakistan. What do you do with a situation like that if there's no insight?
Well, that part, the blasphemy part, it seems like the outlook is very pessimistic because, as I said, they keep bringing in, and Imran Khan, some people now say, is turning out to be the second Zia-ul-Haq. He's made Quranic studies compulsory. made in Islamabad, made Arabic compulsory. He's doing all these things that he believes show Islam in a good light, but he's totally wrong with his interpretation of Islam.
Well, let me say one more thing. There is a constant level of hypocrisy here. So, you make Arabic compulsory and you make all this reverence for Muhammad compulsory, and then you're complaining about colonialism, right? Of like Western colonialism. Second thing is you're talking about how Israel is an apartheid state and everything, and you yourself have Ahmadiyya Muslims where there's Ahmadi apartheid happening in Pakistan as you speak. You talk about how Islam and Germany and all these countries are Islamophobic, and you're going out and putting blasphemy accusations on Christian nurses in your own country. I mean, there's this, and that's what I mean about the insight. I think the biggest issue there is if you don't have insight into what you're doing, it's impossible to treat you. Like if you have a delusion, right? Okay, go ahead. Susanna. What do you want to say?
There has to be some self-awareness that something is wrong. I mean, we kind of skipped over how the TLP came to be banned and labeled as a radical organization. I'm using that word instead of the T word for YouTube. Like, because a lot of the foundation of how the TLP came about was inherently centered around the issue of blasphemy to begin with. Like so much of their cause, it comes, I don't even want to go fully into how it was started, but that was kind of like the defining central issue that became a rallying cry. And so it's interesting to see on one hand, an insight of the TLP being banned for being as radical as they are. And I mean, when you're taking like almost a dozen police officers, you're a political party, a registered political party with representatives in government taking police officers hostage, again, coming back to the issue of blasphemy, specifically regarding whether or not the envoy or ambassador from France should be ousted from the nation. So you ban this party because they're taking civil servants hostage. Okay, that's like not even half of what went on. But then at the same time, not fully committing to a more liberal, for lack of a better word, or just like moderate, like stance on France. Like not necessarily completely welcoming like that ambassador here either. Like kind of giving some credence to their belief, like maybe we should do something about this ambassador from France. So there is a certain level of insight because these people are causing danger, I mean, obviously to civilians for a long time, but now it's civil servants on a different level. I think it's a cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Harris.
Yeah, look. Yeah, so no, I think they do understand that that this is getting out of hand. I've spoken to some people higher up in Imran Khan's government, and obviously they have varying views on that as well. But what they're concerned about is that Imran Khan he's got such a tunnel vision that what he believes, unless something gets in his head that is very convincing, he doesn't budge from his position. And that has been one of his strengths, and that's also been one of his weaknesses as well. So he has just come to this belief that Islam is a very peaceful religion, perfect religion, which is fine. He's not the only one when it comes to that. But he also believes that we can be reasonable. We can peacefully ask people, hey, don't insult our prophet. And the world will say, okay, Mr. Khan, we wouldn't do it. That's what he believes. And what he doesn't understand, that when he sends out, no matter how peaceful and how, how much calmer he is in his tone or in his approach, the rest of the world is not saying. I mean, these clerics know what the real Islam is. For example, the guy, TLP, the founder of that party, Khadim Hussain Rizvi, who died last year, he's said it numerous times. Islam is not a peaceful religion. Islam has to spread by violence. So he obviously, Imran Khan doesn't agree with that and doesn't buy that version of Islam. And then he gets like, whoa, why are these people out on the streets? Why are they blackmailing the government to, kick out the French ambassador? We can't do that, and we won't do that. We also don't want you touch point on that, that our goal is same, but our tactics are different. Yeah, his goal, he said, yeah, we also don't want them to insult our prophet, but we can only say that, not more than that. But what he doesn't understand when he sends out these messages that sucking up to Muhammad and all that, or even addressing these points. Will draws attention to the cause, and then some people say that he might be doing that on purpose. But anyway, so I want to wrap it up with the point that people inside his government, they understand there are problems. The Human Rights Minister Shirin Mizari, although she's a bit of a hopeless case because she doesn't respond to, I don't know, I've sent so many emails with regarding Pakistani minorities. When this WPJ or WSP, whatever that trade beneficial advantageous standard is that was given to Pakistan by the European Union, when that was brought up by the European Union Parliament and this passed a resolution that maybe we need to review that trade status, she responded in a typical fashion. I have that tweet if you want to share that. It's up to you if you don't want to.
You can read it out.
So she basically said that it is unfortunate that the co-sponsor of the EU's anti-Pakistan resolution was a member of a party that the Swedish PM Stefan Löfven referred to as a neo-fascist single-issue party with Nazi and racist roots. Question now is whether GSP Plus is getting muddied in Islamophobia. So she again invoked the classic card of Islamophobia regarding, hey, look, and there was only one case discussed. The case was that of a Christian couple, Shagufta Kausar and Shafkat Emmanuel, who were allegedly sharing. They were texting each other, and apparently they said some blasphemous things. So even in a private conversation, they weren't broadcasting it to the world. They were just having private conversation, allegedly, and where they were caught. So they were sentenced to death back in 2014. Some people have said the guy has been sexually abused, and there's some. I haven't been able to verify that, but there's a fundraiser going for his rehabilitation, etc. So they only discussed that one particular case. I discuss at least 2 or 3 cases like that every week, and I send them to the Office of Pakistan's Human Rights, and not surprisingly, I never hear back from them. Yeah. So she tried to hide behind Islamophobia, but the interesting part is the next tweet said, "We have issues to resolve, but there has been more movement now on our Human Rights International Convention commitments than in previous governments. The way forward is dialogue and negotiations, which we have been doing, not extreme public positioning." So she acknowledged that, yes, and I know that they do realize that there is a rising extremism, but what they don't understand is they are being part of that. They are contributing to it. They want people to say, okay, let's just sit down and say, don't hurt our prophet or don't insult our prophet. And the highly educated Pakistani population would say, okay, that's it. No, they're contributing to it, and they charge up their emotions, and as a result, you see those millions of people on the roads.
Okay, Armin, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I could look at this from a different perspective and see what you guys think. Again, I'm not the Pakistani here, so my take on this could be completely wrong, but I just want to bounce this off of you guys and tell me, what do you think? I want to have a more charitable perspective for what Imran Khan is doing and see if I could steelman what he's trying to do here, okay? we have like billions of dollars on the line that he's potentially risking losing, right? And because of because of the bad human rights records, because of having blasphemy laws, and yet they're still insisting that we're going to do this, right? And I know a lot of people from outside of like Pakistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia want to think like, oh, these religious leaders, like these leaders probably really, 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 really care about Islam so much that they're willing to sacrifice billions of dollars. It's probably not true. Usually, there is some strategic and rational explanation behind. Politically, there's if you start digging deep. I'm not saying Islam doesn't have an influence. Of course, it does, but it's not that simple, right? Why would any government? I mean, you could look at Iran. Like you have an Islamic theocracy, and yet they are dealing with China, which is like a atheist government that is abusing Muslims. They're like, okay, for the sake of money, we're just going to ignore all of that, right? So Pakistan also does the same thing with China. So it's not like oh yeah, we love Islam so much that we're going to sacrifice billions of dollars. To me, I think it's more about. It seems like I could be wrong. Imran Khan is looking at an existential crisis about his regime, with regards like the fact that we have the TLP in Pakistan, and these people have not the majority of Pakistan, but a big enough support that are active. Like even though they're not the majority, they're extremely active relative to the rest of Pakistan. They're willing to commit violence. They're willing to come into the street. So they have a huge force. Like you have the two great forces in Pakistan is basically these Islamists, and the other one is the military. But it is hard to compete with these people because nobody else can mobilize violent mobs in the streets like they can, right? Even if they don't represent the majority. So, it does seem to me like, are we going to sacrifice billions of dollars so that these people don't raid our offices and chop our heads off? Yes, of course we're going to we like billions of dollars, but we like to also stay alive and we also like to stay in power, right? So we're going to say, no, apostasy will remain illegal. Thank you very much. You could keep your billions of dollars. And I also think like when you see like Imran Khan asking like, hey, the world, can you please respect our prophet? I don't think he's an idiot. I don't think he's like, oh yeah, I think like I'm going to make a formal request to the world and they might actually consider this. I don't think that is his intention. I think his intention is to signal to these idiots that the TLP, like organizations like TLP, is trying to recruit to be like, hey, look, I'm doing the thing. I am doing the thing. Please, like, it's a virtue signal to a base for him to not give, like, because if he doesn't do anything, if he doesn't signal that, at some point they're going to be like, look, they're putting everyone on death row, but it's a joke. Nobody's being executed. They're fooling you. They like, look, oh my God, like imagine if Imran Khan comes and says like, you know what, Ahmadis are cool. Nobody should like no more apostasy. Like, yeah, that's not a crime anymore in Pakistan. That's like, he could be like, yeah, that's great for human rights and all, but it's not good for my neck, right? Like, it's not good for my government. Like, I don't know if I should do that, right? So I'm just trying to see, like, maybe he's just trying to keep everything standing, and that's the calculation that he has. What do you think, Harris?
Right. Look, it's definitely those two things are not mutually exclusive, because he did, when he was trying to calm people down, he was making the media play that infamous speech in the UN when he gave the lecture to the world about how Islamophobia is rising, and you should respect. And he tried to sell that to Pakistan when it was when all this thing was happening, but I think he genuinely believes that too. He genuinely believes that he can convince the Western world. He usually doesn't speak against Western world like that. Even in Urdu, when he gives his speeches, he says, I understand the Western world. I spent my youth there. He says all of that. And he genuinely believes that once you tell them, once you explain to them that, that it hurts our feelings, they will listen to you. They're the most liberal people. And then he gives the example and he says that, when United States invaded Iraq, 10 million people came to the streets. So he believes, he doesn't view the West in a negative light, but he just thinks that West doesn't understand. And I'm the guy. I'm going to tell them. So he has this narcissism about him. And but that's where he wants. Well, yeah, in this part he is, but he's not a total idiot. So as you said, it also gives him this satisfaction that, okay, I've done my bit. What's reasonable? But this is what I'm saying. He himself is actually a pacifist. He is not a warmongering kind of person. He's not a violent person like that. He's always spoken against violence. But that's when he gets surprised. Like, oh, well, why aren't people chopping each other's heads off? So yeah, you're right. But he's he takes pride in being an ideological person rather than He says that I'm not a realist. I'm an idealist.
His idealism, though, I mean, this is a problem. There's one thing, and there may be many things, that's almost Trumpian about him, where he has many positions on every side of every issue, or he at least seems to have, and a lot of that has to do with like just appeasing certain elements of the people who vote for him. But I just wanted to moving to the next phase of this, because what is the status of the opposition to this? So we talk about this a lot. We've got like Tehreek-e-Labbaik, we've got the Khadim Rizvi, like, all these guys. They had a lot of support. But when it comes to elections, when it comes to people voting, it seems like there is a silent majority that's kind of getting tired of this stuff. Even you mentioned Shireen Mazari. Shireen Mazari isn't exactly the kind of people that fundamentalist Islamic people are going to support as a wonderful example of a Muslim woman. So there's and that goes for a lot of people in the government. What is the status of opposition to this blasphemy stuff inside Pakistan, and also what are the things that people can do outside? Like the GSP plus status, that's one thing. Sanctions are always an option, but just in terms of international pressure, like Pakistan is dependent on foreign aid for its economy.
Yeah,
like it's not like they have a great tax system where they can collect taxes, or they're contributing a lot, or have amazing exports.
They're basically screwed. No, they're basically screwed. If the international community tries to put Pakistan on the leash or just tighten the noose around the neck, then they will choke. See, that's the interesting thing. The other two political parties, the other two major political parties, the People's Party, the late Benazir Bhutto's party, and Nawaz Sharif's party, surprisingly, both of them stayed quiet in that, because they both have been the victims of religious extremism. Obviously, Benazir Bhutto was allegedly killed by the Taliban. There are some conspiracy theories, but I'll go with the official version that she was killed by the Taliban. Salman Taseer was killed by the same guy who became the spiritual hero of this TLP movement. And then in 2017, Nawaz Sharif's government was facing similar kind of demonstrations. So they knew, but Imran Khan made a strategic mistake at that point as well. He was like, yeah, well, what they're demanding is fair enough, which obviously now he's like, oh no, that was stupid. So the other major two political parties, so these three are the biggest political parties. They enjoy 75% of the vote bank between all three of them. But the weird part is, and I mean, you said that although they're not the majority, I'm not actually sure about that, especially in Punjab. Yes, they're not really that popular in other three provinces. The other three provinces did not even act around this topic of, this France and blasphemy. They didn't come out on the streets, barring Karachi, but Karachi is also a bit of a mixed case. But Punjab is a ticking time bomb. This radical extremism, all that you see, all this terrible news that you see, they actually come out of Punjab. All these blasphemy cases, they come out of Punjab. Yes, there's some Hindu oppression in the rural parts of Sindh, But that's more so of opportunism rather than religious extremism and lack of law and order. But in Punjab, that's where it's happening. And some interesting statistics are that this is the TLP party. That's a Barelvi party, by the way. And now, according to the last census, the estimates are 70% of Pakistanis are Barelvis, and majority of them are in Punjab. Now, obviously, not all of them would agree. But when this TLP thing happened, every Barelvi religious leader threw their support behind this guy. This guy's only 26 years old now. His father was very charismatic and popular, and this guy has taken the party to the next level. So, and mind you, they actually were the fourth biggest. They got the fourth heaviest mandate in the last general elections, which obviously didn't translate because it's a parliamentarian government. So their candidates came third, or some places they came second or fourth. By overall popular vote, if you calculated that, they were number 4. And that was only their second election. So don't be surprised if they end up getting 10, 15, 20 seats in the National Assembly and in the Punjab Assembly. Then these guys are a bunch of fanatics, and I think the West will definitely have to do something at that point.
I have 4 questions.
Let's do it.
All right. Question number 1. Is there any relationship between TLP and Taliban? Question number 2. What's the effect of Afghanistan finally taking over in the Taliban taking over in Afghanistan after United States leaves? The fact that the Taliban is going to come and take over again in Afghanistan, how would that affect Pakistan? Question number 3. When you say this is a ticking time bomb, what does it mean? Like, what does it look like when this time bomb hits 0? And what does that mean for a country, the effect on that in the region for a country with nuclear weapons for, this time bomb? Like, what does that look like and what's the effect? And question number 4, how is, in all of this, what do you see China's role is? If Pakistan cuts relationship with Western countries, how do you think China is going to come and take advantage of that?
Wow, so all very interesting. I hope I remember them in order. The first question was the relationship between Taliban and TLP. Okay, so Taliban back in 2014 made a big mistake, decided to attack a Pakistani army school and killed over 100 children. The whole country united against them. And they just the Pakistani military basically destroyed all the infrastructure in Pakistan, defeated them within a couple of years. So Taliban were kicked out of Pakistan. But on the other hand, now this TLP always stayed away from the militant wing. They kept growing in popularity, but these guys have got no weapons, no training, no nothing. So they were not militant, but they're just extremists. And that's what they've shown. So they know one thing now, that they have the power. They can they can hold Islamabad hostage. Islamabad tried to use all the intimidation tactics on them. It didn't work. More bodies had fallen. Higher the chance of mutiny would have been not only between the Pakistani police, but also the Pakistani military. That's when the military actually told Imran Khan, hey, this is it. You got to end this. So the interesting development was, so the reason why I told you this and how it's all linked, because Taliban did not enjoy support of Pakistani public because they had killed nearly 70,000 Pakistanis in the previous decade. So Pakistanis hated Taliban. These guys, because they're not militant, that's why their support was growing after the assassination of Salman Taseer. Now Taliban, in the midst of it, Pakistani Taliban, they said, well, how about both of us try to fight this evil Pakistani government or establishment together? Now that was a catch-22 for Pakistan. Imran Khan also was one of the biggest proponents of giving a political platform to religious parties as well, because historically religious parties in Pakistan have not been very successful. So he was one of the most vocal supporters of bringing TLP in the political spectrum. So he believes that if they are in the political spectrum, then they have a dog in the fight. Then they would want to win democratically. So, then they would also understand the democratic norms and all of that. That was his view. But because these guys didn't have any seats in the assembly, that's probably why they were a bit more hawkish. But if they actually did have 5 or 10 seats, they probably would be a little bit different in their approach. But now that's the part, because now Pakistan hastily banned them, which will probably be overturned by the Supreme Court, which Pakistan government would actually want it to be overturned, because if they ban that, where are all these millions of supporters going to go? That's a ticking time bomb that they can actually, this time Taliban could come back with a huge, uproar. Now that's one. But the other part is if they go through the political way, then the problem is, what if they do get 5, 6, 7, 8 seats in the National Assembly, or even more in the following elections? Then can we afford to have a nuclear armed country like that is being governed by just a bunch of idiots, religious extremists? The whole world is worried about Iran getting their hands on nuclear bomb, but Iran somehow, I'm not a fan of them, but they've got some form of an experience on how to run the country or how to have diplomatic relationships, either through infidel China or Russia. But these guys have no experience at all. Imagine them coming to power. Imagine them having any control over that. So that is a very worrying trend. It's just a race against time if the international community can force Pakistan enough to dismantle them quietly. This is one of the biggest points of contention, that what's actually going on. Are they actually trying to dismantle these people one by one? And by dismantling, I mean there's a strong rumor that the father of this movement, Khadim Rizvi, he died in mysterious circumstances. They thought that was after he gave the deadline in April to expel the French ambassador. So the rumor has it that he died in mysterious circumstances. Who knows? And they were hoping that people would forget about it because 6-7 months after. So that didn't happen. But let's see what happens after that. So sorry, what was your third question?
Oh, well, the second one is how the Taliban taking over in Afghanistan after the U.S. withdrawal, how is that going to affect the situation?
Well, I don't think that would affect Pakistan as much. It might serve Pakistan a little bit. It might serve in Pakistan's favor, because historically they've had good relationship with Taliban, and also Pakistan would want Taliban, breathing down the neck. Pakistan would want them to go away and do something else, but it would still not be entirely a favorable position for anyone, because Pakistan has burnt a lot of bridges with Taliban as well. So I don't know. I don't think it would be that bad for Pakistan, but it would be definitely bad for Afghanistan. Yes.
So the third question was, like, when you said the ticking time bomb, like, what's the worst case situation? Like, if things get really bad, what does that look like to you?
Well, the only thing that I worry about, not the next elections, but the elections after that. So in probably 8 years' time, if the trajectory keeps going up, there could be a significant political force. And obviously, like any big country, Pakistan's military as well has a lot of these Barelvis who, through their support with the TLP, there was very small scale mutinies, but that's what army was afraid of, that there might be a mutiny. So that's my biggest worry, that if they get significant number of political seats in the national or provincial assembly, that could be a bit of a problem for the whole region, for the whole world, I'd say.
If the army doesn't like that, I think the only thing the army in Pakistan is intimidated by is these people. But do you think, like, if the army is not happy with, like, the TLP, can they do anything about it, or would they?
Well, they would never be able to do anything covertly. They wouldn't be. They'll have to do it secretively. They would have to they'll have to do it covertly. Basically, they can't do it openly. This will be bad news for them. There's no way they can intimidate them publicly. So that's the only thing that I can think of. But again, it's just and Pakistan military has actually got very good experience in doing that. They have violently suppressed the freedom movement in Balochistan. They have violently suppressed not separatist movement in KPK, the northern province, but they had a movement started that they wanted equal rights. So the Pakistani military has been arresting their people, and they've been doing a lot of things quietly. They're good at it. So if they decide to take care of this problem now, they can do it. But Pakistan military is dodgy as well, because they've usually used these guys as assets, and then when they become Frankenstein, they're like, oh, hang on, what have we done? So that remains to be seen. Right now they can, but if they wait another couple of years, it could get out of their hands.
Isn't it amazing how that story keeps repeating itself everywhere, where like military people try to use religious or far-right groups in their advantage, and then eventually it's something that they now have to take care of cleaning it up. It just happens everywhere all the time. And the last question is like, if the Pakistan and EU and and Western countries' relationship keeps getting worse and worse, do you see China stepping in and taking advantage of that, like more?
Well, Pakistan has already put all their eggs in Chinese basket.
Already?
They have already said that their future lies with China, and they need to rely less and less on Europe and the West. But again, another bad strategy from these people. They just China is not. See, China. There were unconfirmed reports that China had actually sent their military convoy to protect their assets in what they're building, this Belt and Road Initiative, where they're building this road from down to the southern port of Gwadar in the troubled province of Balochistan, all the way up to the Himalayas and then beyond to China. So they were getting these attacks from Balochistan Liberation Party, BLA Army, Balochistan Liberation Army. So they were like, hey, you guys can't handle it. We're going to go there. And Pakistan's not going to challenge them. And we already know if, what happened in Hambantota. If they have to, and obviously they're putting in a lot of money. And if they have to protect their interests now, they will come with they will come with the guns.
So the withdrawal of United States and European countries from Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Iran is making China turn these countries into its playground. It seems like in the next 20 years, it's going to be a lot of the politics around this region is going to be involved with understanding how China's interests.
Eventually, right? It will be. But just recently, I think a couple of days ago, it was confirmed by Pakistan government that US had been pressuring them to give them air bases so they could keep an eye on Afghanistan. But Pakistan also had immense pressure from China not to do it. So Pakistan obviously had to go with China. There you go. And they said, no, we can't give you that. And also it was a better decision because Pakistanis right now are sick of America. They're not. They don't know what's waiting for them in China. But United States would probably switch over to Central Asian countries and probably have their drone operations carrying on from there. So I'm not the expert on this, but with Afghanistan, they say, well, it might not be totally easy for Taliban to capture Kabul, but they've already got 40% of Afghanistan under their control or something like that.
Yeah, the less populated parts. So.
Yeah, there was always an issue, and we're coming up to time, and I think we have like one patron comment that we're going to address as well. There's always been, like with the foreign aid that we were talking about, the U.S. aid that they got. The U.S. always had this policy. They've always had a trust issue with Pakistan because they play both sides of the coin. That reached a climax at the time when they found bin Laden in Abbottabad, and like the equivalent of West Point in Pakistan, where just hiding right among the army and the governmental elite. So the aid was always given to them, not so they would be, because if they gave the aid, then they would be 50% on America's side. If they didn't give the aid, they'd go 100% to China's side. So that was really the calculation. It wasn't really that, okay, we're going to give them aid because they're our ally and they're loyal to us. Like, they're not. They always knew that it was a two-faced type of relationship, but it was basically to deter them from going towards China. It seems like that effort has like exhausted itself at this point, where they've.
No, but you got to understand in that. No, but you got to understand Pakistan. Taliban were pro-Pakistan. Pakistan liked them. It was against their interests. Now, all of a sudden, for the last 10 years, Pakistan had been supporting them. And the United States says, "Well, hang on, you got to help us kick them out." So there were a lot of people within the military. Yeah, they had the strategic interests, and there were a lot of people in Pakistan, in the Pakistani military, who didn't want that. So that's why that double game was. The two-phase strategy was always inevitable.
It was, but it was two-faced though. I mean, that's
yeah. Oh yeah.
It was very hard to tell. So yeah, we're out of time. There's a lot of interesting stuff I wanted to get to here, but this is a huge topic, so we'll probably continue at another time. Ahmed Qureshi is saying Imran Khan is trying to keep support while his weak government, as well as the military, is being challenged by a Pakistan democratic movement, which includes the religious parties. You want to speak to that, or?
Yeah, look, the Democratic Front, I don't know. I mean, the Democratic Front is probably not as challenging. I mean, these things have been going on in pretty much every democratically elected Pakistani government. When the other parties were in power, let's say Nawaz Sharif's party was in power in the last term, it seemed like Imran Khan's going to topple the government any day, but that didn't happen. So that's not going to happen in Imran Khan's case either, because military still seems to be, in his case, the only problem. As I said, the only time when for a moment I thought, this could be really bad, and I was really, really following it minute by minute, that how they had said that they're going to go to they're going to march towards Islamabad, and then Sheikh Rashid just went in there and touched their hands and said, look, we'll do whatever you want. So those are the only things that could actually topple Imran Khan's government. These things that are going on between the political parties, the traditional opposition, I don't see that as any significant challenge.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, I guess we're gonna leave it there for now. Thank you very
fantastic.
much.
Harris, that was really good. Thank you so much for all this information.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is, I kind of looked at it different because I haven't been. I guess I haven't been following it and I haven't been catching up. But this is there's a lot that has changed, and I think there's a lot that'll change from here onwards too.
Guys, if you're, by the way, for podcast listeners that are going to listen to this later, make sure if you are interested in Pakistan geopolitics and the role of religion and everything else around that area, make sure you check out Harris Sultan's YouTube channel. Just search for Harris Sultan on YouTube. The information there is just, you don't get like this much information about Pakistan and the role of secularism, religion, and all the different things that are happening. There's no other channel that covers this better than Harris, so check it out.
That's right. I'm also going to plug Harris's Pakistani Mulhid channel for everybody who's listening who knows Urdu or knows Hindi. It's an Urdu channel where he talks about atheism, secularism. Very, very unique. There aren't a lot of those people out there, and Harris is able to speak about it very openly and very sort of unapologetically. It's fantastic. So please do check that out as well. And if you like what you hear here, go to patreon.com/SJME. You can be a patron for as little as $1 a month. You can watch all of these live streams as they happen. You can participate. You can ask your questions in advance. You can ask your questions live during the stream. I mean, the whole thing. And you can see Harris Sultan flex his pecs. Right in front of you. You're not going to be able to hear that on your iTunes. Should I stop with the pecs thing?
I was just going to say that you can be my patron too if you want.
Yes, you can be a patron of both of us.
Yes.
So Harris,
being a patron is just want to say it's important because it's really risky. These topics that we're talking about, we could get demonetized at any time. So the more patrons like Harris Sultan and people like us have, the more free we feel to be able to talk about things that we want to talk about, and we're worried about monetization. If we have enough patron support, then that becomes less of a risk for us, and we will be more free to just say the things we need to say. So,
creators are disincentivized by being unfair crackdowns from platforms, like Horace got banned from Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, I'm permanently removed Facebook. One of my Urdu channels permanently demonetized over simply quoting the Quran that it allows wife beating. Yeah, these things can happen. So yeah, your support through Patreon or PayPal or whatever, that is very, very helpful, and at least it takes our mind off at least that thing, so we can just keep giving you, without mincing our words, we can keep giving you honest analysis.
Yeah, I just got a message from somebody on for Armin. Armin, they're asking, they're like, I want to be a patron of both Secular Jihadists and Harris's channel, but I can only choose one. Armin, will you suggest which one I should choose? Which one?
Choose Harris. Choose Harris.
Oh, come on. I made that up. Anyway, guys.
I was going to say Atheist Republic.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening in. And then, we're going to continue this, Harris. I mean, you've been here every time you come on. It's like fantastic. So
we'll have the after party.
At the after party. That's good.
Ahmed in the left here saying thanks, guys. Great episode. Thank you, Ahmed. Anyway, thank you, everyone, and talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
The Secular Jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air, and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.